All right, Patrick, shall we start with the Timberwolves? Where do you want to start?
I think we should probably start with the Timberwolves at a glorious weekend here in Minnesota for exciting activity. That was for sure. We've had the last 4 days, the previous 4 nights, we had Wild going 1-1, Timberwolves going 2-0, two great games, and I was not at the X on Saturday, but that must have been a hell of a game too, right?
Oh yeah, it was a very good game. Very good game.
And
Tough loss, but a good game.
it's a tough loss, and you end up with you know, the way it's going to end in the current playoffs is a crazy scramble with somebody coming down and, hitting the back of the net and surprising everyone, including himself, right? So that's the way it goes. But the Timberwolves, I don't know if we've ever had better back-to-back games than that. Do you? I know they came back and beat Denver and all that, but blah blah blah. These are the Lakers.
Yep.
These are LeBron playing at age 40, like you can't believe
Mhm.
how good he's playing. And to I thought I was there Friday and thought it was one of the best games I'd ever seen. And they ended up pulling away a little bit at the end. But yesterday, I just watched it on TV. It was better. It was
That was great.
incredible because they just kept being 7 points behind, in the fourth quarter, and you thought they're just not going to get there because they can't. When they do get a stop, they can't score on the other end, and then all of a sudden they take the lead and lose it back again, and then you think, okay, this is in trouble. They gotta guard Austin Reeves. That's what they gotta do. I know they gotta spend a lot of resources guarding Doncic, and they gotta spend a lot of resources guarding LeBron. But five guys should be able to guard three guys, and Austin Reeves, oof, they're lucky that last shot didn't go down. He's a he's a hell of a player. He really is, and it's amazing though that Reddick would play the same four guys, same five guys the entire second half, right? The entire
No
second half.
substitutions. First time since they've started tracking this that it's happened.
Yes, and I did see a stat that the only guy to the play four guys the full second half of the playoff game was our guy Tim. Back in the day with the Bulls, he played his whole crew, but he didn't play them like these guys. The all five of them, and it was. What's interesting is one of them is not a normal starter, and but he never put the big man back on the court, which I don't know. If I'm him, I might want to have the big guy in the court because then that might mean Rudy's on the court, and I want to play the Timberwolves with Rudy on the court. Don't you?
He's in a rough series, yeah. And Luca, Pat. Luca was, I mean, he could barely function.
On
Like he's sick and not
well,
in.
on Friday he was good yesterday. He was good
No, but
yesterday.
in the second, no, but by the fourth
Oh
quarter,
yeah,
where he struggled, he was not that good because he's one sick and two out of shape. He
yeah,
was coming out of timeouts. He would put his hands on his shorts and tried to catch his breath, and that was after a break.
yes, yeah. And I don't buy the. I think they did a good job on the telecast, but I don't buy the fact that they got away with one on McDaniel's. He stepped on McDaniel's foot.
Mm-hmm.
And tripped. I don't
Correct.
think McDaniel's has the right to be guarding him, right? And he
Stepped on his foot.
stepped on his foot and fell down, and so it wasn't like the color guy said, it wasn't intentional, but it was a trip. But it wasn't a trip because the other guy stepped on his foot. But McDaniel's was fantastic against him Friday. They did not. McDaniel's didn't take him the whole uh, second half this time. He didn't. I mean, they had him give some help on LeBron and other guys because. But I thought that game he played Friday night was one of the best games I've ever seen any Timberwolf play. McDaniel's against Doncic, and I know Doncic wasn't feeling well, but I mean Doncic. The Timberwolves got a fair shake from the referees both nights. No problem, no problem with it. But they do let Doncic just take two hands and push a guy out of the way every once in a
Oh
while,
yeah.
don't they? It's
Yes. And
incredible.
LeBron gets the foul call every time he goes into traffic.
hmm And I'll tell you what, though, Friday night, him going to the basket in the first half, look out, you know. Say goodbye to the grandchildren if he runs into you, man. He was just storming the basket. It was fantastic. And an aunt who's capable of a great quote once in a while, saying that he made one of those from Yucatan was. Who would have guessed that Ant even knew Yucatan existed? You know.
That was my first thought.
Yes.
How does he know about Yucatan?
I would guess he's probably vacationed there with one of his baby mamas. I don't know what, sometime along the way. So, but he was on his best behavior and played. He played. I mean, he was great yesterday. Friday wasn't a great game for him, but he hung in there. He didn't get. He didn't let himself get down, and then he got they got a replay call on Friday, and they got the big replay call that basically gave them a chance to. Otherwise, if they don't get that last call on LeBron fouling Ant, they're one up with 9 seconds to go, and then
And the ball goes to midcourt because that was a Laker timeout.
yeah, that's right. So some Luca or you're going to have to play Luca and LeBron for 9 seconds without fouling either of them,
Yep.
and that's going to be very difficult because you know damn well that if Luca can find a foul with the best of them, but it's fun. But you know what? It ain't over. These has been, you're in good shape, but I got a hunch you're back here for Game 6, and you got to win it, don't you?
I mean, that's quite possible. I just don't know with their complete lack of depth. I don't know if the
Yeah.
Lakers can win three consecutive I mean,
Yes.
LeBron's what 40 now.
Yeah.
Luca's in awful shape, and he's been puking for 2 days. So that's the one
Yes.
thing is, can they win three consecutive games without I mean, JJ yesterday basically said, I don't trust anyone but these five guys.
Yes, that's right. It was and he got some minutes out of a few other guys on Friday that weren't that bad, but I don't know what the deal was. He's I guess in desperation mode. He figures if they can't win that game, they're pretty well out of luck. So, but I don't know. They'll come out and give you. They have really. They said they were going to change the tone of the series after that first game when they didn't guard anybody,
Yep.
and they certainly did. They have turned it into very physical, and it's pretty amazing how physical it's been, considering they're so small. That they're not playing a center basically. Rudy though was lost, man, playing
Yep.
in this series. I knew he was in trouble when he missed the half footer. I don't mind a guy missing a 1 footer, but he missed a half footer
He did.
and missed the basket completely on a half footer.
Got the rebound back and tried to lay it up. Why don't you go up for a dunk?
I don't know. I don't know. That's the only shot we want you to take, Rudy.
Yes.
Dunk,
Yes.
dunk. So he hasn't been a factor in, and they also have basically admitted that the 15 minutes Conley plays, they're at a disadvantage, something fierce. So they now have their closing lineup. That's for sure with DiVincenzo in there. And you don't need Connolly because distributing the ball because Ant handles the ball half the time and DiVincenzo handles it. Remember early in the year when they were trying to get him to play guard and before he got hurt, you said, "What? He doesn't have any idea what he's doing." But have you ever seen in Twin Cities sports though a player change your opinion more than Julius Randle has in the second half of the season since he came back from injury? I mean,
It
I
yeah, it's
said
been
he has
drastic.
to go. They can't, they
Yeah.
can't play like this, and he's been great. I mean, he works hard, man. But this fact he started passing instead of always shooting is,
Yep.
but he's been terrific. It is, as I continue to insist, one of the most interesting teams we've ever had in the Twin Cities
Yeah.
because of some of the losses. You know, I keep thinking I know they had a couple of injuries, but they lost to a Wizard team at home that was 1-32 on the road when they lost to them. It's hard to believe this is the same team, isn't it?
They had something like 26 losses in clutch time. They
Yeah,
have
yeah,
now
they
the
were
past two
terrible.
games
Yeah,
absolutely dominated clutch time.
yes, they did. You know, they were. I mean, they were second that fourth quarter. There was not really till the last 5 6 minutes. You didn't think they had a chance to win it because they just kept being seven behind. You
Yep.
know, so
But it never got more than that too. I think
no,
it got to
yeah,
12, but they always every time the Lakers missed a couple of just really clutch shots that would have
hmm
made the lead
oh
like
yeah,
14 or 15. But
yeah.
the Wolves kept it close enough that and yeah, by playing the same five guys for two entire quarters, I think the Wolves probably owe a thank you to JJ Redick.
One of the biggest plays of the game was when Luka missed that layup too.
Yep,
You
that
know,
was huge. First
that
half,
was
right?
good. No, right? That was the last 3 minutes or something.
Okay,
Remember
because he
that? He
missed one
blew
in the
that.
first half.
Yeah, and he blew that layup. And then LeBron said, "I blew a layup too, but it wasn't. That one was contested, and
Yep.
you know he was trying to." But Luca missed kind of a bunny there with 3 4 minutes to go. That looked like he wasn't really being defended on that one. But it was fun, man. And that I wasn't there Sunday, but Friday that place was as jammed as I've ever seen it. They were back up to the back wall there, and it was phenomenal, and they were into it, man. And that was, that was a 12-point game at the end, but it wasn't. It
Right.
was a war, man. It was a great game.
Right. And the X, I wasn't there on Thursday, but I was at the X on Saturday, and the X was great too. I will say this because I don't know the prices, Pat, but the playoff tickets can't be cheap.
No,
But we got a lot of people investing a lot. But what's fun
oh
about it is it's passionate.
yeah,
That they
right.
don't sit on their hands. It's two really good crowds, probably different, but yeah, both of those buildings on Saturday and then Sunday were just fantastic.
Well, I was backing out of the driveway Saturday, and there were some neighbors walking their dog, and I looked to my right and didn't see anything. I looked to my left and didn't see them. I damn near backed over them and the dog when they were coming out of the driveway. And then we started talking, and they were at the game Friday night and just happy as hell. And they spent $300 for the tickets, you know.
I'm glad you didn't
But
kill them.
they weren't. No, it would have been bad. It would
That would
have
have been
been
very
bad.
bad.
I'm glad I didn't even kill the dog. That would have
No,
really
that would have been
upset them
worse.
too. That would have upset them too. But
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was they stopped. They knew that you know when you're backing out and you take that observation and there's trees in the neighborhood, you go left
Yeah.
and then you go right and then you go right.
Uh
You
huh.
don't although this was a vehicle that will stop if you want to hit something. So
It'll stop
anyway.
you before you kill the family
Yeah,
dog.
that's right, which was good. But yeah, people are just they're spending the money, man, and they're having a great time, and they're buying their $15 beers, and it's incredible. We've it would be nice if they'd both get to the next round, wouldn't it? We've never had it. 28 years, 28
Okay.
seasons, because you count the North Stars
That's
4
right.
years. That's 4 years, right?
That's what you're right.
And
Yeah.
then this year, because the NHL missed a year. This is year 25 of the Wild, but it's actually only season 24. So this is 28 seasons, and we've never had them both in the. Now the between them. What did somebody say? They've won. They've each only won 4 playoff series. Is that right?
Well, the Wild won
Has the
two in
Wild,
2003,
and then
and they've won a couple. Yeah, that's probably right. Four is probably
then
right.
they only advanced in 14 and 15, right? They
Yep.
advanced in 14 and
And they haven't
15 and they
advanced
won.
since.
But
Yep.
then again, the Wolves have been around for 36 years, and this is number season 24 for the other guys. So it's very difficult for both teams to advance when one of yours doesn't get to the playoffs for 13 seasons, like the
Well, right.
Timberwolves did.
And when the Wolves started and the Stars were still here, The Wolves didn't get to the playoffs until like 3 or 4 years after the North Stars had moved to Dallas.
Yes,
So there was
yeah,
never a problem with that back in
yeah.
those days.
Did you do you think JB Bickerstaff is still chasing those referees that left the man? He was insane. He was screaming at Tibbs. I don't know what Tibbs did. He got the call, but boy, that was a terrible
And
call
then
at
they
the end of the game.
apologized
Yeah, but
immediately.
then they didn't wait for the 2 minute report to
No.
say they screwed it up. The refs looked at it after the game and said we screwed it up.
Did you know that I believe of the major sports, the NHL is the only one that doesn't allow a pool reporter to talk to an official,
Really?
which is the
Wow.
most cowardly thing. I guess they used to, but they so like if the official screws the pooch, they don't have to talk ever.
And does the league ever admit it?
I think you might be able to contact the league for a statement, but you get nothing of substance. I mean, there's no equivalent of, hey, in the third period report, we screwed up X, Y, and Z. There's nothing like that.
Well, the NBA is unbelievably ethical with that 2 minute report. It's nobody else would even contemplate doing that. They would, they'd fine anyone who tried to put out their own 2 minute report, right, on any other thing. And
But umpires talk, right?
yeah, umpires will talk.
And
Yeah,
referees in football will talk to a pool reporter.
umpires if they want to, but you can go down and ask them.
Okay.
I think you can still go down and ask them. And they used to argue with you. But you used to go down there and knock on the door and say, "Hey, can I get a what happened on that play?" And you don't go in there and like Sid and scream at him. Of course,
That's the Sid story.
one of the the greatest screaming contest Sid and I ever had
Oh.
was when I think it was Koski took out a guy at second base and they called him for an illegal slide back when it was hard to have an illegal slide, and that ended the game, and the Twins were good that season. So it was in the Metrodome, and we were all waiting to talk to the official because it was it Kelly? I think Kelly might have still been the manager. I'm not sure, but went out and argued with him, but not Gardy. I'm not sure if it's Gardy or Kelly, but. So we're out there, and the umpires' room used to be down beyond the visitors' clubhouse there.
Mhm.
And we're sitting there waiting for him, and Sid starts screaming at him when they come up. The umpires come up to get into their little cubby hole there because they kind of waited to come up for the players to get off because it was such a controversial inning. And I can't remember who the umpire was. It Jim Joyce? Might have been Jim Joyce. And he was screaming at Jim Joyce. And there was eight of us waiting, and then Joyce, we're not talking to you, because of Sid. And so then I started screaming at Sid many, many obscenities at the top of my lungs. So yeah, that was one of the great clashes we ever had. He was unbelievable the way he could screw he of course changed the NFL rule. Back in the day, the NFL, you just be like baseball, you just knock on the door and ask them what they did, ask them why they made that call. And then Armin Terzian's in there bleeding to death, and Sid's walks in there and starts screaming at him for screwing the Vikings. So at Met Stadium, and the next year they had the pool reporter thing. So
Oh, I didn't know that. That's what started it, huh?
that started the pool reporter. Yeah, Sid screaming at guy looked like a Revolutionary War soldier survivor with the big bandage around his head, and Sid screaming at him for screwing the Vikings. It was, I was working the visiting locker room then, which was a treat. Could you imagine? You were never in the Met locker rooms, were you?
No, never.
I mean, it was the size of a good high school locker room, the visitors, and
Sure.
they put a football team in there. Now the rosters weren't as big. Rosters were like 40 then, right?
Still, yeah.
Yeah, and 40 then, but that's where they put the football team. So we're in there after the Dallas pulls the game out, and we knew that the Vikings were mad down there, but it was we were talking to Dallas, and they were all celebrating and having a good time, and all of a sudden here comes all the reporters from the Viking locker room. They say, and start telling them, "You pushed off. We got screwed. We got screwed," and it just turned into absolute chaos in there. And there was like a room the size of I don't know what, as I say, a good high school locker room. There were 150 people in there. It was incredible,
Really?
and
I didn't know
screaming
the
and
story.
hollering, huh?
I said I don't think that you have told that because this was the 1975 divisional game, right?
Yeah, that was
The
the Drew
push off
Pearson,
of
the
Drew
Drew
Pearson
Pearson
on
game. Oh
right.
yeah, yeah, that
I didn't
guy,
know
and
that.
then Sid was down the 20 feet down the hall where the referees were, and that's where he stormed in there and just opened the door and started mfing them for screwing the Vikings. It's amazing what he got away with, man.
Oh
Any
God.
of us tried to do that now, we'd be banned for life, for goodness sakes.
Well, and back in the old days when reporters sat courtside, like at
Oh
Williams
yeah,
or heck at Wolves games.
oh yeah, Wolves games he was brutal. Yeah. He was, yeah, Wolves was right on top. In Williams Arena, you were down in the hole there, so it was not quite as bad, but on the court. And of course, I've told this story 100 times, but it's one of my favorite. Eddie, I'd done a column on Eddie Hightower a couple of years earlier because he was a superintendent of schools or a principal in Marion, Illinois. And he had a buddy who he'd get out of school at 3 o'clock and they'd take a private plane and fly around the Midwest to do a game that night, because Eddie was doing, God, 5 games a week. And Sid used to sit down there and scream at those guys down in the hole there, right underneath. And Eddie's it's crazy in there, it's full, and Eddie's holding the ball and getting ready for the jump, and I start screaming, Eddie, Eddie, Eddie. And Eddie looks down and I said, Sid couldn't be here tonight. He wanted me to tell you you were a no good bleeping, bleeping, bleeper. And Eddie laughed like hell. He thought it was great. But yeah, I mean, I think he became a cartoon character for the officials, so they let him get away. Once in a while, they get mad at him and scream at him, but usually they just kind of laughed at him. But it's incredible what he got away with. Unbelievable.
Oh man.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Why I got to call Louis and ask him this week. Why does home ice not mean anything anymore? I mean, in the NFL
Yeah.
back in the NHL back in Louis' day,
Yeah.
all we wanted was that home ice, man. We gotta get that home ice. What do well, I suppose a third of the players are from Europe, and it's just a Canadian, and now we got them from all over the country, and they play in international tournaments when they're 12 years old and stuff. I think that's a lot of it, but it's incredible. I mean, you can come out and those buildings are absolutely psychotically alive at the start, and the home team can get about a 3 or 4 minute edge, but by the time they have the next face off, it doesn't mean anything. It's incredible
I
the way the athletes handle the road now is just
yeah,
amazing.
it doesn't bother them. In fact, I think there's a case to be made that a lot of today's athletes like being on the road more.
Yes,
Like I think part of the thing in hockey is, back in the day, the buildings were different, right?
yes,
Chicago was crazy, but
yes,
I believe their ice was smaller, slightly
yes.
smaller. Boston's was really small. The Met was standardized. I think the difference now is the actual playing surface. They're all
Hmm.
the same.
Never changes. Yeah, and they're
Yeah,
used to the noise. It's a.
yeah. The noise, I don't
I've
think.
always said if they're dropping a puck and the home crowd is screaming like lunatics, 18, 19,000. What difference does it make? You can pretend like it's your crowd. It's I
Right,
mean, and they calling you names and everything, but I mean it's just.
you're
It's
right.
just the road in all. I think it's still big in college basketball, but beyond that, I don't think it means much. Do you? I mean, even college hockey doesn't mean much. I don't know. You
I mean,
know.
I think it's a nice thing if the home team wins. I think it's a nice thing to say, and I certainly think the crowds here are great. But yeah, like the only sport that I would really in professional sport in today's game that it could affect, and it doesn't a ton, is football because you can cheer very loud when the offense, right,
Yeah, that's right.
is going. But I mean, football, I think you'd find out that your premise for hockey is pretty close as well. I don't think it bothers
Hmm.
guys.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't either. I think, and I've said this before, that the fact that they're playing in showcases when they're 12 years old and
Yeah.
all over the country, and plus they're playing against elite. Okay, you're a Minnesota high school kid from years ago, 40 years ago. You couldn't play summer sports. You were not allowed to play on a team with any of your teammates in the summer. Now, it's the kids basketball season ends and the AAU starts about 3 weeks
Oh
later,
yeah.
and they play for
Well,
3 months, 2.5 months all over the country.
and hockey,
Yeah,
what they basically immediately go to summer league hockey or
yeah,
whatever or camps. So yeah, you're
yeah.
right.
They're playing on. It's. I mean, they're much more sophisticated athletes than they used to be. We
Mm-hmm.
had now this is a long time ago, but I think 1961 maybe. Roosevelt had a great basketball team, and they uh, they played in the regional final against Mound, I think it was,
Wow.
and Mound, a kid from Mound noticed that a couple of their players had played, a couple of their bench warmers, like the 10th and 11th players on the team, had played in a demo lay game, which was a summer. It's kind of like you know just a religious basketball league or something. And two of them had played organized ball and they never got off the bench. They threw Roosevelt out of the tournament. But because Mound was the team that ratted them out, they didn't put them in the tournament. They put Royalton, which had lost the first round game to Roosevelt in the state tournament. And the coach, Wally Shute, was a big buddy of my friend Augie, and he and Augie were drinking together in some place in Royalton bar at 1 o'clock in the morning when they tracked down Wally and said, "Your team's going to the state tournament. You gotta." They had Kurt Sauer on that team. Was the big star, the father of the linebacker that ended up playing in the NFL was a
Yeah.
big star. But Augie got the scoop, man, because he was in there drinking with the
See,
coach.
always pays to be in the bar.
Yes, right. That's right.
It's a good reporter.
But it's amazing how we didn't want the kids to get better in the summer.
So why did Mound not go? So because they
because they
ratted
ratted
out
them
Roosevelt.
out. Yeah, they ratted them out. Yeah, that's and
Wow.
I don't think they would have thrown them out if the kids hadn't. But Roosevelt beat them badly enough that those two guys got in the game for like 30 seconds at the end of the game. So the state high school league.
Wow.
Beverly Hill was the name of the guy. A guy named Beverly was the very long. And when I started, he was still. I think he still had the job when I started covering the preps. And when I'd write my prep column, I'd call him Beverly Nil all the time because he was. They were so stupid and conservative. It was unbelievable. They didn't want anybody to get any better. It was incredible.
Oh, that's great. All
You,
right.
if you're an athlete today,
Yep.
young men and young women. Well, women weren't even playing back then, but you are much better off than you were when in more conservative times. One more question: our official pro team of our colleagues Score North. What are we going to do about those Looney Tunes, man?
Did they lose again
Uh,
yesterday?
yeah, against a Vancouver team that
They,
didn't start nine of its good players because they got some other tournament game going on. And we get beat 3-1, and we've only scored like one goal in the last four games.
we're
Jonathan's got
being
to,
defended differently because of
yes,
our approach. They figured us out, and we're not
yes,
adjusting.
and we don't want the ball. We want the other team to have the ball. I don't get that. I
I
I I
know.
I don't know what's going on, but I think Jonathan Harrison ought to take some action here and get this thing straightened out. Don't you?
All I know is that I have never been as informed about the Loons as I have
Marple.
since subscribing to the Star Tribune again.
Oh God.
I feel like I'm in the
If,
locker
if
room.
if we could cover all our other beats like Marthaler covered, we'd be mighty. I always read him even though I don't know what the hell he's talking
He's the
about half
Peter
the.
Gammons of soccer.
Yes, he's unbelievable. It's incredible. And apparently, one of our players yesterday might have referred to one of the opponents from Vancouver by a racial slur.
Oh
So we got a
no.
big scandal going on in there. We don't know yet, but we think.
Oh, that's not good.
We think we might have that. Soccer, of course, is big on anti-racial slurs because every time two black guys play a game in Germany, the
Oh, it's
other
awful.
crowd starts chanting racial slurs at them.
It's
So
awful. Yeah.
anyway,
Well,
all
that's not good.
righty.
Hey,
Oh
so wait,
yeah,
wait,
I
wait.
better sell a
Sell
car
me a
here.
car.
Now's the time. Come on, let's go here. You want the SUVs for the kids? They're getting ready to graduate from high school. Let's go. The Buick SUVs are fantastic machines. Have you been watching sports on TV? You've seen the ads of these wonderful Envision and Envista and all these SUVs that Buick has. They're tremendous, different sizes. Right now, Jim Paul and Brett Paul's Valley Group of GM dealers in Apple Valley is loaded with inventory. 2024, 2025. Low interest rates, high rebates. You can make a deal. Get out there right now and you can have by this weekend you'll be driving a new vehicle if you go out there. But they're fantastic looking machines. I keep noticing them on these ads. And everybody wants the SUV these days, and summer hockey season is here. You need to load them up and get the kids to the hockey game. So Jim Paul and Brett Paul, Valley Group of GM dealers, get yourself a Buick SUV out there right now in Apple Valley.
Talk to you on Wednesday for more Unchained, sir.
All right, see you.
Thanks,
Goodbye.
Patrick.